There's a food sitting in almost every kitchen cupboard right now that's silently accelerating the aging process in ways most people don't realize. It's contributing to wrinkles, brain fog, chronic inflammation, diabetes, heart disease, and even dementia. Yet it's so deeply embedded in our food supply that the average person consumes over 60 pounds of it every single year. We're talking about sugar. And if you think you've heard all this before, I promise you the latest research on how sugar ages your body is far more disturbing and specific than the general warnings you've been hearing for years. Welcome to Elderly Discoveries, where today we're uncovering the exact mechanisms by which sugar destroys your cells, accelerates biological aging, and steals years from your life. And more importantly, how to break free from its grip even after decades of consumption. Let's start with something called glycation, because this is the process that literally ages you from the inside out, and almost nobody talks about it. When you eat sugar, the glucose molecules in your bloodstream attach themselves to proteins and fats in a process called glycation. This creates new molecular structures called advanced glycation end products, and the acronym for this couldn't be more appropriate: AGEs. These AG compounds are essentially sticky, damaged proteins that accumulate in your tissues and wreak havoc throughout your body. They cross-link with collagen and elastin, the proteins that keep your skin firm and supple, which is why people who consume high amounts of sugar literally look older. Their skin sags, wrinkles deepen, and they lose that youthful resilience. But the visible aging is just the tip of the iceberg. AGEs accumulate in your arterial walls, making blood vessels stiff and contributing to high blood pressure and atherosclerosis. They accumulate in your brain, where they're associated with cognitive decline and Alzheimer's disease. They damage your kidneys, your eyes, your nerves, essentially every organ system. A groundbreaking study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that people with higher levels of AGEs in their blood had significantly shorter telomeres. Telomeres are the protective caps on the ends of your chromosomes, and their length is considered one of the most reliable biomarkers of biological age. Every time your cells divide, telomeres get a little shorter, and when they get too short, cells can no longer divide and become senescent or die. Sugar is literally shortening your cellular lifespan. Here's what makes this especially insidious. The sugar industry has spent decades obscuring the truth and shifting blame to fat, particularly saturated fat, for heart disease and other chronic conditions. We now know from uncovered internal documents that the sugar industry actually paid Harvard researchers in the 1960s to downplay sugar's role in heart disease and point the finger at fat instead. This deception shaped nutritional guidelines for half a century, leading to the low-fat craze, where fat was removed from foods and replaced with sugar and refined carbohydrates. The result? Skyrocketing rates of obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and all the conditions we associate with aging. Let's talk specifically about what sugar does to your brain, because this is particularly relevant for anyone concerned about maintaining cognitive function into their later years. Your brain is an incredibly energy-demanding organ, using about 20% of your body's glucose, even though it's only 2% of your body weight. But there's a huge difference between the steady glucose supply from complex carbohydrates and the sugar spikes from processed foods. When you consume sugar, especially in liquid form like soda or juice, your blood sugar skyrockets. This triggers a massive insulin release to bring it back down, often overshooting and creating a blood sugar crash. These wild fluctuations damage blood vessels in your brain, reduce blood flow, and create inflammation. Over time, repeated sugar consumption leads to insulin resistance, where your cells, including brain cells, stop responding properly to insulin signals. This means glucose can't get into cells efficiently, essentially starving them of energy even though your bloodstream is flooded with sugar. Researchers have found that people with insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes have significantly higher rates of cognitive decline and dementia. Some scientists now refer to Alzheimer's disease as type 3 diabetes because of the strong connection between insulin resistance and brain degeneration. One study following over 5,000 people for a decade found that those with the highest sugar intake had a 54% increased risk of developing dementia compared to those with the lowest intake. The inflammation caused by sugar consumption is another critical aging accelerator. When you eat sugar, it triggers the release of inflammatory cytokines, chemical messengers that activate your immune system. This is fine occasionally, as part of normal immune function, but chronic consumption of sugar keeps inflammation constantly elevated. This chronic low-grade inflammation, sometimes called inflammaging, is now recognized as a fundamental driver of virtually every age-related disease. It damages tissues, promotes cancer growth, accelerates arthritis, weakens bones, and contributes to muscle loss. People who consume high amounts of sugar have measurably higher levels of inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein and interleukin-6 in their blood. Sugar's impact on your gut microbiome is equally concerning. Your digestive tract contains trillions of bacteria that play crucial roles in immune function, nutrient absorption, mood regulation, and even brain health through what's called the gut-brain axis. Sugar feeds harmful bacteria and yeast like Candida while starving the beneficial bacteria that keep you healthy. This imbalance, called dysbiosis, leads to increased intestinal permeability or leaky gut, where partially digested food particles and bacterial toxins leak through the intestinal wall into your bloodstream. This triggers immune reactions and systemic inflammation, creating a vicious cycle of gut damage and accelerated aging. The addiction potential of sugar is something we need to address directly because many seniors find themselves unable to quit despite knowing the harm it causes. Brain imaging studies have shown that sugar activates the same reward pathways as cocaine and other addictive drugs. It triggers dopamine release, creating pleasure and reinforcing the behavior. Over time, just like with drugs, you need more sugar to get the same rewarding effect, and you experience withdrawal symptoms like headaches, irritability, and intense cravings when you try to quit. This isn't a lack of willpower. This is neurochemistry and understanding that can help remove the shame that keeps people stuck in destructive patterns. The food industry knows exactly what they're doing. They've engineered products to hit what they call the bliss point, the precise amount of sugar that maximizes palatability and drives overconsumption. Sugar is added to foods you wouldn't expect: bread, pasta sauce, salad dressing, soup, deli meat, even salt. It's hidden under dozens of different names: high fructose corn syrup, dextrose, maltose, rice syrup, fruit juice concentrate, evaporated cane juice, and many more. The average American consumes 17 teaspoons of added sugar daily, more than 3 times the American Heart Association's recommendation for women, and more than double for men. Let's talk about what happens when you actually reduce or eliminate added sugar from your diet, because the transformation can be remarkable even for people who've been consuming sugar heavily for decades. Within just a few days, most people notice stabilized energy levels without the afternoon crashes. Within a week or two, skin often starts looking clearer and more radiant as inflammation decreases. Within a month, many people report significant improvements in joint pain, better sleep, improved mood, and sharper mental clarity. Blood work typically shows improvements in triglycerides, cholesterol ratios, fasting glucose, and inflammatory markers. The longer-term changes are even more profound. Studies of people who've maintained low sugar intake for years show they have younger biological ages than their chronological ages would suggest. Their telomeres are longer, their cellular function is better, and they have lower incidence of age-related diseases. This isn't just about adding years to your life. It's about adding life to your years, maintaining the vitality, independence, and cognitive sharpness that make those extra years worth living. So, how do you actually break free from sugar, especially if you've been consuming it for decades? The first step is awareness. Start reading labels obsessively. Anything ending in "-ose" is sugar. Anything described as syrup is sugar. If a product has more than 5 grams of sugar per serving, and it's not plain fruit or dairy, you're looking at added sugars. Be especially wary of products marketed as healthy, like granola, protein bars, flavored yogurt, and smoothies, which often contain shocking amounts of sugar. The second step is crowding out rather than restriction. Instead of focusing on what you can't have, focus on adding nutrient-dense whole foods that naturally satisfy you and stabilize blood sugar. High-quality proteins, healthy fats from nuts, avocados, and olive oil, and fiber-rich vegetables make you feel full and reduce cravings. When your body is properly nourished with what it actually needs, the compulsive sugar cravings often diminish naturally. Third, be prepared for an adjustment period. The first 3 to 5 days of significantly reducing sugar can be uncomfortable. You might experience headaches, fatigue, irritability, and intense cravings. This is your body adjusting to using fat and stable glucose for energy instead of sugar spikes. Push through this period, stay hydrated, get adequate sleep, and the cravings will diminish. Most people report that by day 7 to 10, they feel dramatically better and sugar cravings have decreased by 70 to 80%. Find natural alternatives that satisfy the desire for sweetness without the harmful effects. Whole fresh fruit contains sugar, but it's packaged with fiber, vitamins, antioxidants, and water that slow absorption and provide nutritional value. Berries are particularly good choices, high in antioxidants and relatively low in sugar. Small amounts of raw honey or pure maple syrup, while still sugar, at least provide some minerals and beneficial compounds unlike refined white sugar, which is nutritionally empty. Be especially vigilant about liquid sugar, which is the most damaging form. Soda, fruit juice, sweet tea, energy drinks, and fancy coffee beverages deliver huge sugar loads without any satiety. And because they're liquid, they hit your bloodstream even faster, creating more dramatic spikes. One 20-ounce soda can contain 65 grams of sugar, more than 4 days' worth of the recommended amount in a single drink. Switching to water, unsweetened tea, or black coffee eliminates a major source of sugar for many people. The evidence is overwhelming and unambiguous. Sugar accelerates aging through multiple mechanisms, damaging proteins through glycation, shortening telomeres, promoting inflammation, disrupting gut health, creating insulin resistance, and feeding disease processes. For seniors who want to maintain their health, independence, and cognitive function, reducing or eliminating added sugar isn't optional. It's essential. The good news is that your body has remarkable capacity to heal when you remove this toxic substance. Cells repair, inflammation decreases, and biological age can actually reverse. You can't change the years you've already lived, but you absolutely can change how you age from this day forward. Thanks for joining us on Elderly Discoveries, where we tell you the truth that can transform your health.